You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Monday, January 6th, the first day of the 49ers offseason. And, well, yesterday, final week of the season, felt like every other game that we've seen from the 49ers this year. But joining me to talk about that and way much more as we get into this offseason content is my usual Monday co-host, Weston. Weston, how you doing, man? How you holding up?
I'm like elated that it's over,
right?
But I'm not. You know
bit.
what I mean?
Okay.
Like I'm sad and depressed that it's over, and I'll tell you why. Steph, we've been doing this how long? 2 years together now, right? So every Monday for 2 years we spent together. We've gotten to know each other pretty well, I like to think.
Great.
And like in my household, when the 49ers are playing football, it's the 3.5 hours a week that I'm in control, right? What I say goes, and I get to dictate what we're doing, what we're eating. It's all about the 49ers. That's over. And it hasn't been over this early in almost a handful of years. So I lose my get out of jail free card for Sundays. So that's sad, but I think we're at a very important point for this era of this team is now we have the ability to take corrective action, right? And start forward thinking versus just trying to piecemeal this thing week to week and salvage the season in some capacity, which they weren't able to do. So for that, I'm glad it's over because it's been really difficult. It hasn't been a good product as of late. Let's just call it what it is. But it's still like sad. Like who doesn't love to root on their team in January?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, not only is the 3 hours of happiness, or, for lack of a better word, on Sundays over for you, but, those 3 hours weren't the best, even when they were happening, right? Like,
no, I was very sad in those 3 hours.
Yeah, exactly. So, and like I said, Sunday's game, their season finale was really no different. I mean, it was different in the sense that we had Dobbs instead of Brock. We had Debo out, so we got to see some of the other wide receivers, and there were some injuries that happened. So in that sense, it was different. But for the sake of, not wanting to jump the gun into the offseason, because at the same time, we have a whole offseason to discuss the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're just kind of over, week 18 a bit, right? Especially because it was more of the same of what we've got in this season. I just want to cut to the chase a little bit. We're going to do our 49K Player of the Week, and we're going to do some nominations here now. So we're going to start the show on a positive note, and then from there, we're going to see where this team goes from here. So, Weston, let's cut to the chase. Who's your first nominee? And granted, we're not going to have many for this game, but who's your first nominee for 49K Player of the Week?
Well, you're giving me the honor of kicking us off here in the final week. I appreciate it.
Last week,
I'm going back to Pretty Ricky again. 6 for 69, a touchdown, similar to last week's conversation. It's just a matter in which he did it. He looks like he belongs on the field, and that's all I think we want from our first round pick. When a lot of people questioned it, and we talked about lack of separation from the position a lot extensively in the offseason coming into this year. And now that he's got plenty of reps under his belt, he seemed to be acclimating himself better with the playbook. Seems to be in the right place. He's running those routes. They're finding different ways to get in, and I just loved even his touchdown catch. It just felt physical, felt like a more difficult catch for a rookie. And you just like to see, we talked about, building momentum and positive things going into the offseason that will carry over to, your lifting and your training and your dieting and your routine in the offseason and how to take care of yourself. And I think Ricky stacked a couple games here at the end. Obviously, statistically, last week was far more impressive. But I would say based on the product that was put on the field on the offensive side of the ball, he did the most with his opportunities.
I think it's really important for these young players to really stack their games, especially towards the end of the season. And with Ricky Pearsall having a, late start to the season, I think these last two games are really important for him to have, and he had them.
Yep.
Yes, last week definitely more impressive, but it's what he needed to have these last 2 weeks. And yesterday against the Cardinals, 69 yards, the touchdown. I agree. It was definitely it was a contested catch. I mean, the defender had his arm held, and he showed those strong hands at the catch point. So we love to see that. It was that goal line touchdown. That is his third of the season, which tell me if this sounds crazy, because it did to me when I read it. He has the same amount of touchdowns as Deebo Samuel this season, which is
wild.
I know Deebo missed a lot of games, but Ricky did too. And for them to finish with the same amount of touchdowns, to me, like it kind of signals that maybe you don't need Deebo as much as you did, but as you thought you did, but at the same time, it wasn't a great season anyway. But I think with Pearsall closing out 2024 the way he did, I feel really good about where I think he could be at the start of 2025 and hopefully at the entirety of 2025. So Pearsall, great nomination here. Definitely was one of mine as well. The next nominee that I have for you is Ronaldo Green. I think this is another rookie that has been stacking his games as well, because as like in the second half of the season, he's gotten more playing time. With Lenore not playing in this game, he started this game alongside Mooney Ward, so that was big for him. When Mooney Ward missed some games, he started next to Lenore, which I think, based on what we've seen this season, it's going to be Lenore and Green, manning those two starting spots at corner next season to start. So that's exciting to me, because what I've seen from Ronaldo Green so far tells me that he can handle it. He exudes confidence, and it's just like it doesn't seem like he's afraid or intimidated by anyone he lines up against. The fact that ESPN had him with 3 passes defended in this game against the Cardinals, and I think that tells you everything you need to know. And one of those was in the end zone as well, and that's not the first time he's done that, right? So he's aggressive at the catch point. He plays physical. I love this kid so far. So this is a good sign for things to come. Again, I know 2024 hasn't been the season we had hoped, but we all know that this draft class has looked great this season. And, our 2 nominees so far for the day, I think signal something to look forward to in 2025.
Yeah, I think what's most impressive about Ronaldo, to me at least, is we've talked at great length about how, wow, this guy just looks, arrogant's not the word. He's just sure of himself, right? Like, and confident in his abilities. And we knew he was going to play aggressive. I mean, the talk was he might be too aggressive. He's going to see too many PI penalty, right? Like, we were going to see a lot of those, and we saw a really fair balance. But you mentioned, at point of catch, and I would even go further to say the follow through motion as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even when he's beat, he's still fighting through the play, right? Like, he's still attempting to finish the play. And that shows a lot of maturity for a 21, 22-year-old kid that the 49ers are going to be relying upon heavily. So just another guy pleased as all heck with his, his opening campaign in the National Football League, and another one who has stacked games here at the end, a lot of reps here at the end, where you hope it carries over and only heightens the belief in himself and the belief in his ability. I think we're singing the same message that we were just talking about with Ricky Pearsall, like just building momentum into the, you would love to see these rooks be part of this playoff push and playoff run in this year and their contribution, but he got meaningful snaps throughout the season, and he did the most with them, to the point where there's some business decisions that need to be made in the defensive backfield. And I think the 49ers feel a little bit more confident with who they have under contract right now.
Yeah, I think so too. So yeah, these two rookies definitely going to be part of the new foundation that we see for this team going forward. Now, Weston, did you have any others that you wanted to nominate for this week?
I did have one more, and I'm just going to go with Patrick Taylor coming in, just
Yeah.
17 carries, 109 yards, average 6.5, almost 6.5 yards a carry. When things didn't look great offensively, he was still picking up in chunks and in spot duty. Guerrero went down, right? He wasn't expecting this level of a workload, and he did his darndest with it. Just watching the game, he was just another. He just stood out as putting some good tape out there above the other players that took the field that day. And you go over 100 in rushing, in my eyes, the way that game's going, you have to be acknowledged for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually was going to give Patrick Taylor flowers, but I am not mad at all at you nominating him, because I'm always impressed when players have to, one, come in, due to injury, and pretty much not start, but take over the rest of the game. And at running back, that's a huge position for the 49ers. They run the football, and with his 17 carries, to finish the game, I think that tells you how much he was leaned on in this one, with Guerrero having to exit. 6.4 yards per carry average in this game. Also had a 12-yard catch. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely impressive, especially, given that he didn't expect to have all these carries on that day. And I think I saw some good things from him, like the vision, the ability to cut and he was weaving in and out of the traffic and contact. I thought it was good to see from him. He's nice. I definitely want to see more of him, next season. The 49ers have had a slew of bad injury luck in the running back room, especially. But I think if this running back room is healthy going into 2025, it looks great. If McCaffrey's healthy, let's see what happens with Jordan Mason, right? He's a restricted free agent, so 49ers have a choice to make on him. You have Isaac Guerrero, who, by the way, it seems like worst case scenario was avoided. It seems like an MCL sprain. But of course, I think we have to wait final word on that. But Isaac Guerrero said that his ACL is intact. So that is good. Doesn't seem like it's a long-term injury for him. And then Patrick Taylor, those are four guys that I think you can go into the season feeling pretty confident on if of course they're healthy. And I wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers draft or bring in running back in the offseason as well. So I'm excited. I'm excited about that. Yeah, Patrick Taylor looked pretty good.
They're definitely drafting a running back. It's
undrafted or for what it's worth, I've heard that this running back draft class is extremely deep. So if there's any time to do it, it's going to be this one. So
listen, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? If you get production from your running backs, last I checked, teams that are still at the top of this league run the football pretty darn well, right? You don't need an embarrassment of riches, but get the right one, and sometimes you got to take big swings to get the right one.
I mean, we literally saw Jamar Gibbs yesterday cook on Sunday Night Football. So yes, really good running backs in the league are game changers. And Barkley, just another example. We've seen it time and time again. We've seen what Christian McCaffrey, when healthy, has done for this offense. So yes, running backs do indeed matter. I'm going to throw one more 11th hour nomination here. And I'm actually kicking myself because yesterday I was like, I'm going to nominate him anyway. And then I totally forgot as I was putting together my list, a couple hours ago, preparing for the show. I have to nominate Juwan Jennings. And this is, I know he didn't finish the game. He got ejected, but we love him for the reason that he got ejected anyway, because it embodies what Juwan Jennings is. And he's a hell of a blocker. He's a hell of a team player. He doesn't care if he's not getting the ball. He loves to pancake dudes. He loves to piss off DBs by his blocking. And he did that twice in consecutive plays. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that, where 2 consecutive plays, you pancake 2 different DBs and both of them get so mad at you that there's pushing and shoving afterwards. I think that tells you everything you need to know about Jennings and his blocking, and it's no wonder the 49ers love him as much as they do. Now, he had the opportunity to get the 1,000 yards in this game, right? That would have been a great milestone for him. By the way, no bonus or incentive came from him getting the 1,000 yards. It was just the milestone. But in any case, like, it would have been big for him. He's never reached 1,000 yards in his career. He finished this game with 7 catches, 52 yards. I have no doubt in my mind, Weston, that he would have reached the 1,000 yards had he remained in this game. And he was ejected, unjustly, I think.
Yeah, definitely unjustly. And there is zero doubt that they weren't going to do everything possible. Let's not forget that he and Josh Dobbs, you know what I mean? Like, these guys know each other, and that guy's in that quarterback. He knows what's at stake. He knows what the milestone means. Like, they were going to get it, and it was obvious. I mean, what do they have? Like 3 consecutive passes to him. You know what I mean? Like, they were stacking them. I bet if you ask Juwan Jennings, he still doesn't know why he was thrown out of the game. I don't know why he was thrown out of the game. He didn't do anything that's against the rules. It was just that physical, and there's a result of pushing and shoving after the fact, and they're just throwing offsetting penalties. And, oh, by the way, it just happened to be back-to-back personal fouls, which gets you disqualified from the game, right? Like, it felt weird, but he is in a year where we questioned everybody and how this team lacks the physicality that they've had in years past. It's the one guy who didn't. He's just, he just loves ball. Like, you can just tell watching him play. He just loves this game. And the way he goes about his business, being reliable on third downs, accountable, physical, down there blocking his rear end off. Like, he's the epitome of the team player. He's the epitome of what you want out there. And people don't do that unless they genuinely enjoy, like, all elements of the game. And, like, a big bright spot here, not just in the game, just in general. None of us saw 1,000-yard. In my eyes, he is a 1,000-yard receiver because he would have gotten it. I'm just guaranteed if he was in the game. 100%. None of us expected that Juwan Jennings would have been. And honestly, even if Ayuk's down, I don't know. Like, we saw this starting to come on at the end, in the Super Bowl and then the beginning of the season. Like, I think he would have played his way into this target share regardless, plus or minus a couple 100 yards receiving. But what an evolution, and, just another piece to this 49er puzzle that you got to feel good about go forward.
Absolutely. And especially given the uncertainty of Brandon Ayuk and when he's going to be back, and even when he comes back, when he's going to be back to his performance level, I feel good about Juwan Jennings, continuing to be one of the starting wide receivers for this team, Ricky Pearsall and whoever else, right? If that's Debo, maybe they bring someone else in, but I feel good about Juwan Jennings being one of those key pieces to start the season next year. And I think he's here to stay. Like, his role, I think, is solidified in this team going forward. It just has to be. So I'd be remiss if I didn't nominate him after what happened. So yeah, definitely giving him his flowers and the nomination. And by the way, guys, going to do things a little bit different. I already mentioned that we wanted to get 49K Player of the Week nominations out of the way because we have a lot more to discuss from the last day or so with the 49ers. But these are your nominees: Ricky Pearsall, Renardo Green, Patrick Taylor Jr., Juwan Jennings. I want to give people the time to vote for this throughout the show, but of course I have other slides to show. So I put on YouTube for the live viewers here, I put the poll in the chat. So choose who you want to vote for 49K Player of the Week there at the end of the show. We're going to check the tally there and see who you guys have nominated. And Weston, make sure I do not forget, because I got the memory of a goldfish here. So
I make no promises, but I'll do my best as well.
All right. Or someone in the chat, please, remind us that homework is due. But yeah, Weston, like, one of the big things regarding the aftermath of Week 18, the aftermath of just this season, right, is what changes are going to come from this season. There has to be. This team going 6-11 is not just a fluke. I mean, it's not just injuries, right? No. There were some things that went wrong and horribly wrong this season that I think potentially could, call for people's jobs. And we've been doing that on this show for much of this season. I do have to share this, right? So on Twitter, 49ers, let's see the username, 49ers Sports Talk, posted that he's hearing that Brian Schneider being fired is one of the big changes the 49ers are planning to make this offseason. Now, of course, nothing has been announced as of yet. It hasn't even been 24 hours since the game ended. It's been about 24 hours at this point while we're recording this. So we're still waiting to hear on any coaching changes or decisions being made, but take this for what it's worth, right? I mean, he's been right on a few things, 49ers Sports Take. And so I wanted to share that with you because I think also the writing on the wall is there, quite honestly, for Brian Schneider and his future being in question with the 49ers.
Yeah, this is the obvious move, right? This is almost your scapegoat opportunity, like the low-hanging fruit to say we got to move on. Let's call it what it is. Special teams for years has just been super underwhelming and needs to be addressed. And the truth is when you come off a season like this, whether it's players, whether it's coaches, there needs to be changes. It needs to, even if it's just the sacrificial lamb of 6-11, that's not the way we do things around here. You know what I mean? And if this team is consistently injured, I would say last year, supremely healthy compared to the way they've been throughout the Shanahan-Lynch era. But I think you need to inspect everything, right? I think this is the opportunity. You have a full off season now, right? You're not going until February. I would not expect any announcements to take place. If they're going to make some coaches changes, these guys all know each other. They're going to wait to see which coaches get fired because usually when a head coach goes, a vast majority of the staff goes too, right? New head coach comes in, they want to bring their people. So who's going to be on the market? Don't shake your tree until you know what you're going to hang on it, right? So I think that but I definitely think there's 3 or 4 names that are absolutely gone.
3 or 4.
Yeah, I do. I think 3 or 4. Some of these are position guys, right? Not necessarily coordinators, but there will be some names, and got to make changes. The expectations are higher here in San Francisco than they are for most franchises. When your end of the bargain is not lived up to, and the special teams has not been lived up to for a while, it's time. I'm sorry, Brian Schneider. I don't know anything you guys about a person. I know you got a family, all that, but you have overstayed your welcome here in San Francisco at this particular position.
Yeah, and Kyle Shanahan speaking with the media in the post game after the game yesterday. Of course, that's what post game means. He opened by, of course, talking about the injuries, and immediately after that, before anyone could actually ask him any questions, he had to say this.
As far as everything goes, I know you guys got a job to do. Anything for the off season, coaches, players, any of that stuff. I got a job to do too. I got to finish this out the right way with our team and stuff tomorrow. So any of that stuff, I'll answer late in the week for you guys.
Yeah, so it sounds like Kyle Shanahan, kind of hinted at some changes, but told the media, "Hey guys, it's not coming right away. Give me some time to, have the internal discussions." And then we'll relay it to the media when the time is right. He said later in the week, so we'll see. But I feel like saying this and opening the presser up by saying this kind of hints at discussions are being made. Let us have those discussions, and we will tell you who got fired at the end of said discussions.
So they've definitely been going on for weeks, right? Once it became glaringly obvious that, I almost feel like at least the front office has started preparing for this offseason already, right? Weeks ago. And these discussions are part of it. But I'd ask you, what good does it do anybody to fire your special teams coordinator or any coach with 2 weeks remaining, right? 3 weeks remaining? It does no good, right? It's at this point, we forget that they're humans too, and that these people know each other. Like Brian Schneider and Kyle Shanahan have known each other for quite some time. He's quite familiar that Schneider has a family. Like, hey, if I can squeak you out an extra 3 paychecks, I'm probably going to do it, right? Like, this is what we do for each other. We're people at the end of the day. But yeah, he's just cog one, and I think Kyle handled this. I know we always say how smug he is and he doesn't give enough to the media, but I think this is him giving the media credit. I know you have your questions. I will answer them, but let me do this right with my team, with my coaches, with everything. I'm not – nobody's getting thrown on the bus and nobody's getting thrown out to the wolves on Monday. Right. You know what I mean? Like, not until I talk to the team.
Exactly. It's kind of a way of getting ahead of the questions, and also, like, obviously a sign of respect to those coaches. Absolutely. Like, you're not going to say any comments or about anyone's job until you have those conversations with them. So those conversations are going to be had in the next couple of days. And I will mention this too, and I know someone in the chat brought it up as well. Matt Miyoko had a great live yesterday or just a video that he put out on his YouTube yesterday. I'm sure you guys check that after this. Don't jump ship and check it out right now.
Stay here.
We're listening. Stay here. But after this, check that out. It was like a 20-minute video. He just talked about, just some immediate takeaways, and obviously about coaches, what he thinks, the pulse he has on some of these things, and what coaches he expects will go. Of course, I think Brian Schneider is the low-hanging fruit. He also said Nick Sorenson, like he admitted that, before he had some confidence that the 49ers may retain him after a few weeks, and how these last few weeks for this 49ers defense has gone. It's been absolutely atrocious. He's kind of definitely now leaning towards Nick Sorenson being in danger of getting fired as well. But to go back to, Kyle kind of making these decisions, and we'll most likely find out towards the end of the week. I guess he caught Kyle after the presser with everyone else, and he just asked him, like, hey, like, when are we going to talk to you again? And Kyle was just like, does it have to be tomorrow? And he, Matt's like, no, like, there's no rush. But all that to say that, Kyle, just like he said in the presser with everyone else, like he needs the few days to, have these discussions. And then later in the week definitely will be something a little more definitive. So I think as far as when we're expecting some of these to happen, I know everyone wants it to happen right away and all that, but yeah, it's not going to happen until later in the week. And then Kyle will address the media, because every team, including the 49ers, every team has like a, that post-mortem presser at the end of the season. So we're just waiting for that to happen. It's not going to happen until those coaching decisions happen.
Guys are saying their goodbyes, clearing their lockers, doing all that. It's the off season now, and they're also, some of them know they're returning. Some are not sure. Some are positive they're not returning, right? So there's just a lot that goes on at the end of the season. And while there's football still being played, it's not like this was the NFC Championship game. You lost, season's over. You have like 3 weeks before free agency starts, and you got to get a move on things. Like, they still have a 3-4 week buffer here. And like I said, there will be more decisions by other NFL teams. And I think a prudent team wants to see how those play out and say, if I'm going to make a change by just removing a coach, where's my replacement coming from, right? Because they don't just grow off trees either. So I think there's still the feeling out process. And, I'd be shocked if we actually did get updates by the end of the week. I think we'll get more coach speak at the end of the week. Like, guys, we're working through it. John and I are sitting down, putting our heads together, blah, 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 blah. I think you'll hear more mid-month. Like, that's when they'll start to know. They'll start to fill the pieces. They'll make their decisions and then be confident on who they're going to fill with, because they'll be having those discussions simultaneously as well.
Yeah, exactly. And we're already seeing, as far as defensive coordinators go, at least, like, we're already seeing some defensive coordinators, being fired. Gus Bradley, Colts defensive coordinator, fired actually as we were live here. Also, Bengals defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo. So he was also let go by Cincinnati. I feel like that's an interesting one. That's an intriguing one. I expect, Jeff Ulbrich to most likely be available. I don't expect the Jets to retain him, but yeah, there's still a lot of internal discussions, not just on the 49ers, but every team in the NFL is having discussions. But I do hope the one advantage I would say is that the 49ers won't have to wait till their seat. Like if they were in the playoffs, if they were on a deep playoff run, you have to wait till your season is over in like 3 weeks, 2 weeks from now to make any coaching moves. Meanwhile, everyone else is getting the jump start. The 49ers this season have a chance to get a jump start on, those coaching decisions. So that's kind of the good thing.
That's the other thing too, Steph, is like there will be hot names that are a linebacker coach, a defensive line coach, or something along those lines that are next in the pecking order for opportunity, if you will, that are probably coaching for teams right now that are in the playoffs, right? And their priority is the team and in the playoffs, right? They will make time for conversations, but they're not necessarily, very rarely do you hear the decision made, right? Like while they're still playing ball. So I would just say 100% confident there's going to be changes coming, more than we probably expect, and just be patient. They're coming in short time, right? But they're not. This is not a 2-14 team that hasn't seen the playoffs in 10 years where you're clearing house. Like it's going to be a couple strategic pieces that the changes will take place.
And, decisions aren't always up to the 49ers. Sometimes other teams will be sniffing around on your coaches. And even in a losing season, teams are interested in the 49ers assistant coaches. Now we're getting reports, Adam Schefter reported today, that the Jets requested a head coaching interview with 49ers quarterback coach Brian Griese. Now, this one came a bit of as a shock, not because Brian Griese's getting, some promotion interest, but I guess I wasn't expecting him to go or get interest from QB coach to head coach. That's a significant jump, right? And so I guess we'll see what happens with Brian Griese and if he takes this interview, because I know in the past, I think he's even been asked if he would be interested in being an offensive coordinator or something like that, somewhere else. And I don't think he had much interest in it then, but I'll have to go back and look. I guess don't take my word for it right now, but if I recall, if memory serves me right.
Here's my advice to Brian Griese. He's obviously well respected and well connected throughout the league, right? Between him, his father, et cetera, right? Like the NFL bloodline. If he has interest in becoming a head coach, for the love of God, why would you ever do it in New York? That you would last the season. The team is a dumpster fire. I don't care the talent that they have there. When they're the way they are managed and owned by the Woody Johnson and family, they are a dumpster fire. You go there, you coach 1 year, you'll never be a head coach in the league again. I'm just telling. Not, and I think he knows that. But hey, you got to take the coaches. You got to take if they request, you got to take the interview. Right? You do all this prep, we got to take the interview. It's a resume builder at the end of the day if he has serious interest. But that's just my advice, is anybody who wants to be, unless you're like Rex Ryan, somebody who's just built for the bullshit, sorry for lack of a better word, he's just built differently, becoming the head coach of the New York Jets is not a wise idea for your professional career. Ask Robert Saleh how that went. It was turmoil from the day he walked through the front door.
Yeah, and it's not surprising that he has interest, like I said, because his name is always going to be attached to Brock Purdy and, having given credit by finding him, right? And
taking Mr. Irrelevant to a $60 million a year quarterback. That's a resume builder.
That is pretty pretty notable. So yeah, I would expect that he's going to continue to get interest until he does eventually leave with this team. It's just crazy that even in a bad season, 49ers can't keep everyone. It's crazy. So we'll see. We'll keep tabs on this, of course, and who knows, there might even be other 49ers coaches, assistants who get interest as well. So
I think while we're on the subject of coaching change, and I'm sure, Steph, you might want to get deeper, I don't mean to derail us, is the way that I would be looking at this, and I think the 49ers are, or they should be is that if you're making changes, or what you should be considering is, if you're making these changes, why are you making the change? Are you making it so, if, let's say for the defensive coordinator, if they move on from Sorenson, are you doing it to bring somebody in who's going to still try to do what Robert Saleh, D'Amico Ryans, all the D coordinators that we've seen before, the wide nine, the specific techniques and coverages? Or are you bringing somebody in who can implement their system, right? Because it's going to be effective. I think, and I hope that while we'll see some of these changes is now I think the 49ers are going to say it needs to be done differently. Like you see a lot of Salah back or whatever. Like why? Like why? Like we don't have you don't even have the roster's not even constructed for the you know, type of defense that they want to deploy. So who out there who might be available best fits? I've seen Ulbricht's name tossed around other people, and we'll talk about it at, you know, length throughout the offseason. But like, that's what I think the 49ers need to consider. Are we making the change to just find somebody else who's going to do it the way that we want it, the Kyle way or whatever? Or are we going to find somebody that was what was so obvious about Sorensen when he was hired? Like, he's going to do exactly what Kyle Shanahan tells him, down to the players that are on the field. He's the puppet. Hopefully he does well. Good luck, right? We literally like, good luck with this, Nick, you know? But if you want to bring in a guy that's going to make an impact, that's not what he wants, right? So if you want somebody who's going to move the needle from a coordinator position, they want to do it their way. And I think the 49ers seriously need to scratch that, and by scratch it, I mean, that should pique your interest, and you should follow through with that.
You know how I mentioned that Gus Bradley was just fired by the Colts? Well, you know, and shout out 49ers Throwback in the comments that just, you know, had me check this out. Matt Mayoka just tweeted, interesting development when considering Gus Bradley was on Kyle Shanahan's radar in the past. So very possible that Bradley will be on Kyle's radar once again. And that'll be interesting because, you know, not to say that Buckner would have interest in coming back to the 49ers, but I know a lot of 49er fans would have interest in him coming back. And boy, could they use him like at this point. Not sure if they'd want to bring him back, but let's just say if Gus Bradley did end up being the 49ers defensive coordinator, then I don't think he would come back, just seeing how things went in Indy. But, you know, in any case, not to get too ahead of myself there, but yeah, I think there's a couple guys who have been on Kyle's radar in the past, like Bradley, like the Jeff Ulbrichts, that will, I think, be options this time around. So I guess let's see. And as far as Robert Saleh, like, no, I don't think that, you know, he's going to be returning to this team, not just because I don't think he has a lot of interest. I think that would be like a demotion at this point. And it's, even if he wasn't a head coaching candidate in this cycle, I think going back to where you came from under Kyle Shanahan feels like a demotion, more so than if he just ended up somewhere else as a defensive coordinator again.
I would like it to what it did to Josh McDaniels and Matt Patricia's career when they were these highly touted coordinators leaving a highly successful New England Patriots team, couldn't hack it on their own as head coaches and came running back and taking their former positions. It's just not a good look. I agree with you. A demotion of sorts. It's just not what I don't think it's what Saleh wants to accomplish. He grew here. I'm sure he's forever grateful for his relationships that he's made in San Francisco and helped springboard his career. But he'll go forward. You're looking for somebody who I'm looking for somebody who's like a lifer D coordinator, right? Like just a Vic Fangio.
They'll never leave. They'll never leave for another job.
All I want to do is just coach the freaking defense. I don't want to manage the divas on the offensive side of the ball. I don't want to manage personalities. I don't want to be involved in contract decisions. Just let me scream and yell and headbutt the shit out of the players on my defense and get them fired up. That's the guy I want. I don't know who that is. We'll see. Right. We'll see when the candidates become available.
I agree. That would be the slam dunk obvious choice for the 49ers, just someone who would never leave if they became the obviously 49ers defensive coordinator. But that's easier said than it is to find. And my bad, it was 49ers media in the live chat who told me about that Matt Maiocco tweet, to check that out. Gotta give a shout out to the live chat. Always, keeping me on my toes and telling me about the latest and greatest when I don't have it. Now, Clay Kubiak apparently called plays for the 49ers in week 18. And this was something that kind of flew under the radar because it was something that Kyle kind of said somewhat in passing, it seemed like, to Matt Maiocco and Jennifer Lee Chan, at some point after the game. And this is interesting. Maybe it's not so notable, but it certainly feels a bit, just because Kyle doesn't give up play calling duties. That is his baby. That is the reason he's here. That's his thing, right? So for him to, I think, give that up, we heard in the preseason, Kubiak was calling plays then. And Kyle then said it was to hear Sorenson on the headset and just kind of see how the coaches were communicating, all that. Now in week 18, what's the reason now, right? I'm not sure. But it's interesting just because we've never really seen Kyle do this before. And I think it opens up the possibility that, maybe play calling will be a little more collaborative in the future with Kyle obviously being the main guy, but with Clay Kubiak. And by the way, Kyle said he did a good job, and the 49ers put up a lot of yards with their QB2, 326 yards by Dobbs on Sunday. And I believe over 400 of total offense. It is not so bad. So we'll see what this potentially leads to in the future. But what did you think about this when you saw it?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just jaded, Steph, but this to me just feels like a buddy doing a buddy favor, right? The Kubiaks, as a family, they do have aspirations to be coordinators and head coaches, etc. And it's all about the resume for these guys, right? And now Clay can say, I've called plays in a regular season game. I've been an offensive coordinator without being the offensive coordinator. It's all an interview tactic, a ploy. I am under no disillusion. Kyle Shanahan, for as long as he is a coach in the National Football League on the offensive side of the ball, he will always be calling plays, always. But I do like your sentiment around, does this open the door for more collaboration throughout the week and more input throughout the week from the other coaches, right? Hey, let's get this, let's check out this wrinkle, or we got to get this guy involved, I'm telling you, or whatever. Hey, I've been watching a lot of tape. This corner is going to, but let's just draw this up, right? Instead of Kyle knows best, is he more open to conversations? And to your point of something that we never even dreamed of, that Kyle would even relinquish the responsibility that he loves so much in a preseason game, let alone a regular season game. Maybe that does mean he's maturing in some capacity and opening that door, but he will forever and always be the offensive coordinator for any staff that he's the head coach of. So I don't read too far into it. At first I chuckled. I was like, well, maybe he's just saying that because they lost by 23 points and he doesn't want to feel the fucking heat from the media. Sounds like something I would do, maybe pass the buck a little bit, but I don't read into it. I don't think it changes anything. I think this is just again, somebody on your staff who has aspirations to do more, and you're helping them out when it doesn't hurt you at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think it does show a little bit of maturity from Kyle's part as well. So I like it. I like the idea that maybe there could be some more collaboration in the future, because I think in the past when Mike McDaniel was the run game coordinator and, he had other guys like that helping him out. I think we did see the offense be good. Not that it hasn't been good without those guys. But I think just that difference of opinion and, changing things up and adding some wrinkles could come from having another guy involved in some of the decision making and brainstorming. So I like it, and we'll see what it means for 2025. We'll see if, in this cycle, if that means Clay Kubiak gets some, head coaching or even offensive coordinator nods or interest. certainly could mean that. So yeah, we'll see. We'll keep tabs on it. The other thing that, I wanted to talk about today, the 49ers spoke with the media, and it was pretty much like last day of school vibes, everyone's signing each other's yearbooks and all that. So I just kind of wrangled up the most notable quotes or, things that were said in the locker room from some of the key guys. So I just want to share some of those. Brock Purdy, of course, was asked about his, contract that's going to be happening this offseason. He said, quote, "Obviously, I want to get it done. If it's an opportunity to get it done quick, that would be great. I'm not the kind of guy that wants any drama associated with anything," end quote. No surprise there for Purdy, and with his contract discussions that will be looming this season, he wants to get it done quick. I'm sure the 49ers want to get it done quick. So that was just good to hear. Hopefully they can both work at getting that done sooner than later.
Can I be honest with you? If something is going to get done this year, it's not getting done before the draft, if I'm being honest with everybody, because I think because here's the thought. Some changes are going to happen to this roster, right? Like, you have your quarterback, regardless. Like, you have a quarterback, a competent quarterback, regardless, right? It's not like the position is void right now. Like, he's under contract. That buys you a little bit of time. I also think going into free agency, you're going to see what money you spend in free agency, who appeals to you. You're going to see what the draft board falls for you, and then you're going to look at your money and say, how am I going to structure the contract, right? Like, off of that, I think they're going to, which would still be getting it done sooner than they've gotten pretty much any high-profile extension done if you get it done before the offseason. But if it's going to get done, if we're talking about a big-time contract this offseason, I don't foresee it getting done until after the draft.
I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo's deal was done pretty quickly. I want to say that happened in
it was a
February.
And it was a mistake, and they know it.
But that doesn't have to do with when they decided to pay him.
No, but I think there's a little bit more. I just think there's a little bit more at stake here. And this team, it's no different than what I'm talking about with the coaches. You're going to see what's available before you make your decisions. And I think, the mistake or not, I'm just telling you that's what my gut tells me. I wouldn't go about it that way. If I am convinced that he's my guy, I get it done now, because every day you wait, you risk another person being paid and the number going up. We saw this in the BA saga, right? And I wouldn't do it at this position. Just telling you, seeing how they handle a lot of these negotiations, I would be shocked if it was done before the draft. This
is one we're going to talk about a lot.
We got nothing but time, baby.
Exactly. So I disagree with you. Right. I do think you could get the Purdy deal done, just as 49 media here says.
You could get it done right now, but they're not.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it would actually help you, because then you know how much money you have allocated to this season, and you got the biggest task for this offseason out of the way. Like that, it would just put a big burden, I think, off of the 49ers' shoulders this offseason if they get Purdy done quickly. But again, like we have a lot of time to discuss this one. And let me just get through these other little quick hitters here. So as far as Kittle, right? Like in 2025 is the last year on George Kittle's deal. And we've talked about Kittle and how great he's been this year. He's been 49K player of the week countless times this season. I wouldn't even have to put it to a vote. He's 49K player of the year for us. But he basically said, when asked about his, potential contract situation, he said, quote, "Whatever the front office wants to do, I'm all ears. My goal is to wear the red and gold my entire career," end quote. Get it done. I mean, that's all I need to know. That's all I need to hear to, just slam the table and say, let's get this Kittle guy done quickly. There's no more guaranteed money on his contract. And you can also, by giving him a new extension, with the way they stagger out their contracts, the first couple years going to be low cap hits. Yep. So you can help your cap situation in 2025, 2026 by getting Kittle extended now.
Yeah. Again, another one. They will get this done. They will get Kittle done. Yeah. I have no doubt about that. He's one of the guys. He's one of the boys, right? Like he's one of the ones that is going to get taken care of. But just another one. Like don't have to do it yet, and so they won't. Like we'll see. I'd venture to guess we see this one done like June, July with the promise the whole time. Like you're going to get done, George. Don't worry about it. You're going to say yes to it. You're going to, you could go buy Claire, a small island somewhere in this world. Like we're going to pay you enough. Just chill out. You know what I mean? I have no disillusion that won't get done.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's one that, kind of like we saw with McCaffrey, Trent Williams, like we'll take care of you. It'll happen towards the beginning of the season, but I don't think Kittle's the kind of guy that's going to like hold out. Again, he has 1 year left on his contract. So hopefully, he wouldn't. Those guys certainly did with those contract demands last summer, but yeah, hopefully the 49ers get this done eventually because I do think he has certainly deserved it and it'll be a win-win for all. Now, as far as Christian McCaffrey and how his recovery is going, he said he's, quote, definitely close to fully recovered from his knee injury that, ended his season. He also said that the Achilles issue has, quote, 100% calmed down to the point where, it shouldn't be an issue for next season and that you should be good to go for OTAs. So that's a good sign on Christian McCaffrey. Personally, like there's a part of me that's still nervous about that, flaring up again, right? But I think the rest right now has obviously been good for him. He's been forced to rest for once in his life. So I hope this is a lesson to McCaffrey as well. And yeah, hopefully, he is back and 100% and ready to go for next season. But it seems like right now he's in good spirits and in a good place, as far as his health goes.
Yeah, I'm terrified of this scenario, if I'm being blatantly honest with you. I just think that, are we now seeing, he's injury prone, right? Like, it's happened. He's missed extended time, not just with the 49ers and his time in Carolina. Obviously, he's all world when he's healthy and out there, and that's the version we saw last year, and that's the version we want to see go forward. But I hope he's able to take full advantage of the rest and the rehab time because he's vital to the way that this team's going to go. But I would be lying if I said I'm not terrified with will the Achilles flare back up, right? I'm not worried about the knee. I'm still more worried about the Achilles, right? I know he's going through the knee. The knee will heal. The knee is relatively resilient. And then we're not talking about an ACL or anything with surgery and an extended time. I'm more worried about is this the first of many breakdowns in his tenure as a San Francisco 49er. I'm nervous about it, but it will be the longest offseason he's had in quite some time. So hopefully he can take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think it will be good for him. So I'm looking to stay optimistic because I think we all want to manifest that we get a full season of McCaffrey in 2025 because that can only mean good things for this 49ers offense. Now, lastly, one of the players who I think had some very important things to say that I wanted to mention here is Charvarius Ward, right? Obviously, he's a free agent after this season. Very well could have played his final game, with the 49ers on Sunday. And he, of course, left the door open for a return in San Francisco. He has enjoyed his time here, had nothing but good things to say. But he also talked about, the trauma that his family and he faced here in California. Not here. I'm not in California, but you know what I mean? Yeah. That he faced in California, with having lost his 1-year-old daughter during the season and how that's impacted him. He's kind of reliving that by any time that he comes to California. I wanted to play a bit of his clip just because, I want you to hear it from his words. Let me just try to get to it's a 2-minute clip, so I didn't want to play the entire thing, but just a little clip here. If it'll play. Tech issues. All right, let me reload this because I do really want to have you guys hear this. Apologies for the technical difficulties.
We're playing with just no volume.
There isn't?
No.
So weird. Oh. All right. Well, that's a shame. For the audio listeners, I'll throw it in there. Apologies about that, but yeah, it was just really sad, to hear him talk about, the tragedy that he went through, how it's affected his family. And I just want nothing more than, Ward to find some peace in all this. And if that means, him no longer playing in California, then so be it, because I think hearing his words and just hearing how it's impacted him, this season, and understandably so, I just want what's best for him at this point. And maybe that means, new scenery for him and his family.
Yeah, it's going to take everything I have to not get choked up talking about this, because as a father myself, right, can only understand. And as a father who, my wife and I have gone through our struggles with pregnancy to have children, and have lost one along the way. And it's soul crushing. And to have your 1-year-old taken from you for reasons that you probably still can never understand and fathom. That's a really difficult, I can't even imagine. But what I appreciate about Mooney Ward more than anything was just the way he stood up there as a man and as a father, and owned that, right? And was honest about that. Like, that takes courage more than it takes to be out on a football field. I promise you that, to admit your own insecurities with what your life had, what you've just experienced. Like I said, it's going to take a lot for me not to. Sorry, my laughing is my defense mechanism here, but I agree, Steph. Like, for Mooney Ward, the person, please, just whatever it is that can bring joy and a smile back to your family and be around your newborn child, and whether that's a new city playing ball, whether that's not playing ball at all, like, you owe that to yourself. You owe that to them. Go find what that is. Would I love to have Mooney Ward back? Yeah, sure. Of course. I think he would even admit that his play was down this year if we bring it back to the field. But look what the man was going through, and still showed up to work. So to Mooney Ward, the person, the father, like I say, go find light for you and your family. To Mooney Ward, the football player, like, dude, we'd love to have you back, but I understand sometimes the fresh start is a way you kind of get rid of the demons a little bit. Grateful for what he's done. He played really good ball here for a long time. I thought, he was a very prudent signing, and I think he earned his contract in those first few years you're here. So I have no ill will towards the football player, but to the man, like, family first. Figure whatever makes the most. I'm sorry, Steph. Whatever makes the most sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, one of the things he said in the clip that I was hoping to play was, his partner already moved to Texas.
Yeah.
She couldn't bear to live in California any longer. So, I think that just tells you the magnitude of what they were facing and dealing with this season. So yeah, just wish nothing but the best for Mooney Ward, and, thinking about him and his family. Now, those were the big topics of the day, and I just wanted to share the 49ers also have some future reserve contracts they gave to the practice squad players. So these are practice squad players that the 49ers would like to have back in 2025. That'd be quarterback Tanner Mordecai, wide receiver Tariq Owens, offensive lineman Drake Nugent, wide receiver Trent Taylor, defensive lineman Jonathan Garvin, offensive lineman Sebastian Gutierrez, defensive lineman Taryn Jackson, and Zach Johnson, cornerback Chase Lucas, safety Jalen Mahoney, and tight end Mason Pline. So those guys will be back at least to start the 49ers offseason program with the team. So they'll be part of the 90-man roster to begin. Now, the final thing for this show before we head on out of here is 49K Player of the Week. You guys did vote in the live chat, I assume. Thank you to everyone that voted. Weston, who would you like to cast your final 49K Player of the Week vote for?
Ricky Pearsall.
Ricky Pearsall. Yeah, I think I want to go Bernardo Green, and I was surprised to see he actually didn't get any votes. So I'll throw him.
Come on, y'all.
I didn't give him a vote, but you guys voted for Ricky Pearsall, 62%. I'm sure it'd be a little bit more if we added in Weston's vote there. And Juwan Jennings ended up getting 31%. I feel like that's pretty good for a guy who didn't even finish the game. And
like a quarter
Patrick
and a
Taylor,
half of football.
right? Yeah, Patrick Taylor Jr. 8%. So thank you to all who voted. Your final Week 18 49K Player of the Week is Ricky Pearsall. And one final tidbit I want to have about Ricky Pearsall as well. Like, this dude is incredible and mature beyond his years. He was literally, like, I think just asked about like the status of, the everything. I think the maybe court proceedings,
the investigation, and all that.
Yeah, the investigation going on for the man or the kid really that shot him. The kid was only 17 years old, right? And Ricky Pearsall goes on to say, like, he wants to forgive him and hopefully one day, like, talk to him and, forgive him and hopefully make an impact, like a positive impact on the kid's life. And it's just crazy. But I think it just tells you how good of a person Ricky Pearsall is. Like, it speaks to his character tremendously. And I think we can all admire that. So hopefully 2025 is a less, dramatic season for him, and he can get off on the right foot. Like we said, like the way that he ended this season, I think is a sign of good things to come for him going forward. And, just happy he's on our team.
Yeah, Steph, I love that you kind of ended that, because he is mature beyond his years. Everybody just needs to remember too, like, we don't get all the stories, but a lot of these guys at the professional level, they don't come from much, right? They've scrapped their whole life to get there, right? And what I know now from Ricky, from those comments, listening to Charvarius Ward talk about his scenario, is these guys seem to be surrounded by people who understand life, right? And they're listening and they're paying attention, and they've taken that advice throughout the years, and it just character. That is the best word that we have used today. It's the most appropriate word. It just speaks to the character of the individual. And we all want the best of the best at the position, but I also like having some of the best people on our football team. That makes them easier to root for. And because at the end of the day, this is about entertainment, right? Like, this is why you follow sports. It's entertainment, but the entertainment that we experience sometimes at the cost of these individuals, like livelihoods, and personal gains, etc. So agree with you. Rough start to Ricky Pearsall's career. He could be, really bad mouthing the scenario, the person, etc. And he's like, I just want to understand, and he's like, and I'm not going to judge the book by its cover. I have no idea about where that young man comes from and what was aiming to accomplish with, from the incident or from the engagement with Ricky Pearsall. So great way to end the show, just talking about the character of two contributors here on this team.
I think so too. It's definitely admirable, and proud to say that they're 49ers. Weston, another season in the books for us and for our show. We're gonna continue, doing these shows for you weekly, talking about the off-season topics together. Weston, we've become each other's kind of 49ers therapists, and so we're just here to vent together and discuss our favorite team. And it's been a pleasure to have you on, Weston. And like I say, it's been one of my favorite shows, I think, because we've been doing it for so long, and it's just so easy to talk to you on these shows. And so I appreciate you as always. And we're going to continue doing these. So make sure that you guys like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Not just mine, but Weston's as well. He has a channel as well, Island 49. So make sure you guys check that out if you haven't yet. Hit that notification bell so you know when I go live as well. Now that we're in the off season, the content's going to be a little more random, a little more sporadic. So if you got those notifications on, you will be theoretically notified by YouTube. I saw someone else in the comments mention that, YouTube dropped the ball, didn't give them the notification, but hey, we'll try. So yep. make sure to hit that. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. Appreciate you guys all so much. It's been so much fun to, talk about this season with you. We're going to continue the season content until Thursday, and then, off-season content and schedule will be coming. So for now, have a good rest of your Monday, folks. Talk to you guys soon. But for now, peace.